What's the difference between Quest 2 versus Quest 3? Because for the price of one Quest 3, you can actually buy 2 Quest 2s right now. So is it actually worth getting the Quest 3? And with the crazy inflation right now, I'm sure all of us would love to save an additional $250. So let's compare these 2 headsets and see which one's the best for you. So let's start with graphics. Obviously, the Quest 3 has way better graphics than the Quest 2, but does that actually matter for your purposes? Like, for example, if you're playing games like Gorilla Tag or Rec Room or Roblox, all these games are not super high fidelity graphics, so you're probably not really going to notice a difference between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3. But if you're a graphics junkie, then obviously the Quest 3 is better. I mean, it has pancake lenses instead of Fresnel lenses. It has a higher field of view, a better processor, and it also has a wider range of IPD. IPD meaning interpupillary distance. And that's another thing. If you're someone that tends to have like more narrow eyes or wider eyes compared to the average, then you probably will want to get a Quest 3 because you'll have clearer visuals if your IPD settings on your headset match perfectly with your IPD settings in real life. Now, speaking of graphics, I should mention that the Quest 2 has a black and white external cameras versus the Quest 3, which has full color pass-through. If you're someone who's new to VR, you're probably wondering, why does like color pass-through matter to me? I thought virtual reality was supposed to be super immersive. And to that, I'll say there's recently been a very big push for mixed reality, which is basically like augmented reality, where you see your real world environment, except instead of seeing it through like a clear lens, you're seeing it recreated with cameras in the virtual environment and then using virtual reality to overlay on top of this virtual environment that is reconstructing your real environment. Gosh, that was such a mouthful. There's actually some really cool things you can do in mixed reality right now. For example, there's piano vision, where you can see your real keyboard in VR and learn how to play piano. There's also games like Demio or BAM, which are these like tabletop games that you can play with other people, which looks really good in mixed reality. There's also a number of people that are starting to use VR to replace their laptop and work from virtual reality. I'll go more into that in a future video, by the way, so make sure you subscribe so you can see how to do that. But yeah, there's a growing number of uses for mixed reality. Actually, Quest 3 is not the only headset that can do mixed reality. Quest 2 can also do mixed reality. It's just that now your mixed reality is going to be in black and white instead of in color. So yes, mixed reality apps are going to look a lot better on the Quest 3, but you can technically still do them on the Quest 2. Which brings me to my next point. At this current moment, there's actually no exclusive apps for the Quest 3 specifically. Everything that's on the Quest 3 is on the Quest 2 at the moment. That's not to say that in the future, there's not going to be any Quest 3 exclusives. I'm sure there will be, because again, like I mentioned, the processing power on the Quest 3 is a lot more powerful than the processing power on the Quest 2, so it's capable of running much more complicated apps and games than what is currently playable on the Quest 2. So if you're someone who really likes cutting edge technology and you always want to be able to try the newest and greatest, obviously the Quest 3 is probably going to be for you. I did want to touch a little bit more on this like color pass-through versus black and white pass-through, because there's another important thing that's happening here. The pass-through on the Quest 3 is not only in color, but it is also better visual quality than the Quest 2. Like the Quest 2 pass-through looks a bit grainy. So the probability of you using Quest 2 pass-through for extended use is less likely than using it on the Quest 3. While on the surface, this doesn't seem that important, it's actually quite a big deal, because for people who get motion sick easily, using the Quest 3 pass-through frequently actually reduces motion sickness. So for people who've had issues with being able to play VR because of motion sickness, you can actually play VR much longer in Quest 3 than in Quest 2 if you're using the mixed reality feature. Now, speaking of comfort, the Quest 2 and the Quest 3 are actually the same exact weight, but the Quest 3 feels a little bit lighter. Even though it's not lighter, it's actually just a lot more balanced. And because the Quest 3 has those pancake lenses, which means the lenses are a much thinner profile, the front of the Quest 3 is a lot thinner than the front of the Quest 2. That means that the center of gravity on the Quest 3 is closer to your face than on the Quest 2. So the Quest 2 will just feel heavier because physics. Now, for both headsets, there are a lot of third-party comfort accessories that you can get. But I will say, because the Quest 3 is the new shiny thing, everyone's trying to get rid of their Quest 2 for very cheap. There's a lot of Quest 2 accessories that are out there on the market that everyone's trying to sell for cheap. So when it comes to comfort and customizing your VR headset, not only is the Quest 3 headset more expensive by $250 than the Quest 2, but all the accessories for the Quest 3 are going to be more expensive than the Quest 2. So you're really going to have to spend a lot more money in order to get the right fit of your headset for you. Whether you get a Quest 2 or a Quest 3, make sure you grab one of these, especially if you wear glasses. These are VR Wave prescription lenses. These specifically are for the Quest 3, and look how thin this profile is. You can use them for nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. Or if you don't wear glasses, you can use these for the anti-glare and blue light filter. They have a really cool magnetic design, so it snaps on and off really easily in case you share your headset with other people. You can get them on VR Wave's website, which I'll link in the description, and they do ship worldwide. So thank you, VR Wave, for sponsoring this video. So it's starting to sound like the Quest 2 is really, really good versus the Quest 3. So why would you even buy the Quest 3? Well, there's a couple of reasons. So for one, when the Quest 2 came out, shortly after, the Quest 1 stopped getting supported. Like, games were no longer supporting it, and it just got forgotten quite quickly. So there's concerns from people that maybe the Quest 2 will also be discontinued very soon. But oh man, the Quest 2 sold so many units. There's like 20 million units, I think, that were sold. And that's a lot of people to piss off if Meta decides to suddenly discontinue the Quest 2. So I really don't think that the Quest 2 is going to get discontinued anytime soon. However, we may see some exclusives coming to the Quest 3 that won't be available on the Quest 2 because of the processing power. We talked about mixed reality so much, but really this is what makes the biggest difference between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3. So if you're someone who's really, really new to VR, I mean, if you've ever tried VR, especially like, for the first time, it's kind of scary. I mean, all of a sudden you're completely blind to everybody in the world around you. It's such a vulnerable thing. Like, we've seen so many people playing pranks on people that are in VR headsets because, again, you're just so vulnerable in a VR headset. But with the Quest 3, that full color mixed reality actually makes the Quest 3 such a good beginner-friendly VR headset. It's like, instead of going completely blindfolded, you just now have like rose-colored glasses. You know what I mean? And to boot, there are so many mixed reality apps that have come out that mixed reality is a lot of fun to use in VR. Like, for example, I can totally see myself using my Quest 3 headset in a coffee shop, which I might do in the future, and working from my Quest 3 headset because I'll still have full color visuals of everything around me. But with the Quest 2, it's grainy and it's in black and white, the pass-through, so I would feel not fully present. So is the Quest 3 actually worth it over the Quest 2? And I would say I'm really the wrong person to ask this because I'm a tech geek. I love all the newest and brightest, shiniest technology and being able to do all the cutting edge apps. So for me, the Quest 3 is definitely worth it. I think the Quest 3 is really delightful to use. But for other people, like I said, for someone who may not be using VR that frequently, or maybe is like a little bit more constrained on cash, but still wants to be able to try VR, like the Quest 2 is a really good option still. So anyway, I'm gonna link both of those down below and let me know down in the comments what you think. Like, is the Quest 3 really that much better, or is the Quest 2 good enough for $250 cheaper? All right, I'll see you next time for another VR tech review. Bye.